Since we're talking about network interfaces, it's only appropriate that we at least address wireless interfaces in Unix. Now, wireless itself is a fairly mature technology. It's been around for several years, so a lot of the bugs that were present early on in wireless have worked themselves out over time, such as security, speed, and so forth. But wireless has traditionally been problematic with Unix and Linux, and the reason that this is that when wireless technologies first came out, they were more rapidly adopted and directed at the Windows market. So as a result, a lot of wireless card producers did not put out a lot of cards that had Unix and Linux driver support. Now, there are a limited number of cards supported in BSD, but not that many. There are probably a wider range of cards that are supported by Solaris and Linux. In fact, Linux has the ability to use Windows drivers, although at reduced performance, for some of the wireless cards that are out there using the IndisWAN utilities. Now, be that as it may, again, BSD supports a very limited number of cards. The cards it does support, however, basically are configured the same way as normal network cards, using sysinstall and ifconfig. You actually use those utilities to configure wireless cards pretty much the same way, because essentially BSD sees them as network cards. Now, there's also some unique control utilities that are unique to each driver for each card that BSD supports, such as Y control, Ray control, and control, and so forth. Ray control, for example, is supported by the RayLink RT2500 cards, and that's the utility that's uniquely designed to control that card. You normally won't see these utilities unless you're installing a card that's particular to them. Let's go ahead and take a look at ifconfig and look at some of the options that come with it that can help you configure wireless cards. Let's take a look at ifconfig for a moment and get some of the options that are available to us. Let's do a quick man on ifconfig. You can't really tell much by looking at all the different switches there, but essentially there's a lot of different options that you can use with ifconfig. Once your computer has picked up the card itself, you can configure things that are important to the wireless portion of it. The driver has to be installed, and the computer has to know, BSD has to know that the card is there. It has to actually pick it up. Once that happens, go through here a little bit and look at some of the options available to us. There's some WLAN particular options that are available to us, such as setting the BSSID, the address, the mode, and so forth. And these are particular to wireless networks. You would also be able to set the encryption level, such as WEP, WPA, and the encryption key as well in configuring these cards. The best thing for you to do is, if you get a card, a wireless card that's installed in, try to find out if there's any drivers that are appropriate for BSD that could be used. You may have to search on the manufacturer's site, or you may have to look on some of the support forums and community forums and stuff, because a lot of people have actually developed drivers for cards that the manufacturer originally didn't. So you may be able to find some drivers there. You'll find that a lot of the older cards are actually more well supported in BSD than some of the newer ones. That's not to say that some of the G and N cards aren't supported, but they may be more difficult to find support for. And in the end, if you can't find a driver for a particular card, you may wind up replacing the card. That's probably a last-ditch effort, if you will, but it may come to that. Most of the servers you're going to be installing BSD on, though, probably are not going to be wireless. They could be, but you're going to have to do some research before you decide to go that route. In any case, wireless is supported to a limited degree in BSD and a more wide degree in other Unix-like operating systems such as Linux.